Tomorrow's your long run and today's your rest day. Whatever it is for you, hopefully you're having a good one so far.
Yep. So we are having a good week ourselves. A little cooler weather here, but again, the
Crazy
weekend is here.
thunderstorm, some crazy wind. It's crazy Texas weather.
Yeah, and I know all other parts of the country or North America, you guys are getting equally as weird weather. So we're
Hammered.
getting
Yeah.
close when that spring. Mother Nature's not quite,
Yeah.
she's a little confused right now. So we know very
Yeah.
soon it's going to turn into much warmer and then we'll be dealing with the heat. So we got to be grateful for what we have right now and enjoy it, right?
Absolutely, because the 100-degree temps are coming.
Yeah, exactly. So today, because a lot of you guys are training for races, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the different types of runs to help you with your training. As we mix some things in. Then we're going to go back to the kitchen here in the next couple of weeks as well. So we're just trying to mix some things up. But today we're going to talk about running smarter and not harder, about different types of training runs.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things out of there. And when you kind of go online and you kind of look at these things, it can be, I think they make them more confusing than what it has to be. And unless you're an elite runner, getting into the real specifics of some of these are not. You have a myriad of coaches that are going to do that for you. But there's a good reason for us to understand it as recreational runners, because we do. Just because we're not getting paid for it doesn't mean we don't want to perform good. Doesn't want to mean we want to maximize our long distances, make running more efficient so it makes it easier. We all want to be able to run at a faster, most of us, I would think, at a faster pace with easier effort. That's what training these different energy systems, or what these different types of runs do. So we're just going to, a brief little overview. I know you've heard of these, but just to go back and give.
It's just a good reminder to go back, because I've not been doing as much of these. And so by us putting this together, it reminded me I need to do more of these as more of a variety to help with my endurance and my strength.
You need to start doing some more variety.
Yeah, yes. I do. I absolutely do. So we're going to talk about that today. So as we say every week, it's not medical advice. Yes. This is stuff that we are passionate about. So we're doing the research. We're sharing with you guys what we do, and then what we're going to implement as well. So we work out so we can honor our body's need to move, right?
That's a great one.
Yeah.
We were designed to move all day, not sit all day.
Exactly. So
and not eat all day.
Not sitting and eating all day. We were designed to move, and this is why we're doing all of these things each week. And we encourage you guys to help motivate each other, to help hold yourself accountable, and to help cheer you guys on as well.
Yeah, because you guys are amazing. You're doing amazing things. You're getting those long runs in. You're getting that training, marathon training, half marathon training, all these training for these races that we love to do. That takes your time. That takes your effort, your dedication. So never underestimate how awesome you guys are doing.
Exactly. So as a recap, last week we talked about the stuff around your, whoops, I forgot to change that again. We did a hip mobility last week. No, we did not. I missed that whole thing. We did the ankle last week. So forget that one. I forgot. We were in a rush this morning. Anyway, today we're going to talk about exploring the world of training runs, right? So we're going to run smarter is what we want to try to do. Oops. So anyway, today let's go into the easy runs. This is the one that I like.
You know what? And this is what, and you've probably heard that it's finally like in the forefront pretty much of every running coach, every blog you're going to see. And there's a reason why, because now we know you can't run fast all the time. And no matter how fast you want to run a race, a marathon, you have to slow down to get faster. And it's counterintuitive. So many people get this wrong, and so many people get overuse injuries, get injuries because they can't get this concept down. Your easy runs should be 80% of what you're doing. It's following that 80-20 rule, but you have to know it's your easy pace. And the best way is having a conversation. And we hear that all the time, but do we actually test that? You need to either have someone that you're running with and be able to have a full sentence, be able to have a conversation with them. You have to be able to call someone while you're running and be able to have them understand you and to have a conversation with them. Sing a song. If you're listening to music, out loud, be able to sing the whole song. If you're having to, after a couple words, take that breath of air then you're more at a tempo pace. You're not at your easy pace. And if you're doing that moderately hard, telling yourself that it's easy because I want my pace to be an 8-minute mile for my marathon, so I know my easy pace should be close to that. That's not how it works. Your easy pace is usually off by minutes. It's hard to wrap yourself around, but I think the concept is getting out there extensively now. But there's a reason why, because your easy runs are going to be a key to building your aerobic base, doing all of you're in your zone 2 if you go by heart rate, which is 60 to 75% of your max heart rate. These are the things that allow you to use the right energy system to be able to build that aerobic engine.
Look at that right there. Yep.
You can't have this. It doesn't matter how fast you can go if you don't have an engine to support it,
Right. And that's why most of us do the easy long runs. I fall into that category. And so I need to start mixing it up a little bit more. But again, I'm building that good aerobic engine, which is good. But to get stronger, we're all talking about strength so we can keep running, right? That endurance, we have to mix some things up. And this is why we talk about strength training as well. So the recovery run is similar in terms like it's just a low intensity run designed to help your body recover, just what it says.
Know that you always have to, like I said, it's 80-20 pretty much. Or when you have a hard effort, if you're not having easy efforts, but for me, I run every day, and most people take a complete rest day. But there's a lot of people that run 6 days a week, 7 days a week. Then I have 2 recovery runs, which are easier than my easy pace, painfully slow, as what a lot of people say, but it's that active recovery that allows you. So it needs to be at low intensity. It's going to be slower, like I said, slower than your easy runs, but it's going to allow your body to recover. You always need, after your long run, after your speed workout, you need the next day to either be a rest day, or you can do a recovery run and make sure it's an actual recovery run at that slow pace.
Yeah, exactly. So because you guys are doing a lot of training for your races right now, you're going to need to mix in those long runs, right? So you're going to need to increase your the whole goal is to increase your endurance.
And this is whether you're a 5K-er or a marathoner, they have long runs in there. This is the critical part. You need that big engine, that aerobic engine. So you need to be running at that easy pace to build that, but you need the distance at that easy pace. The long runs give you that distance to build that aerobic endurance that you need. The more oxygen you have, the more capillaries you have. This builds capillaries, it builds mitochondria. Mitochondria is the powerhouse that gives you the energy. So all of these things, the more oxygen that you can have, remember, oxygen is energy. So that's the more energy. The bigger that this system is, the longer you can go without crashing and burning, without fatiguing. We stretch this out. So these are the things that you're doing them once a week. You're slowly increasing them, usually the 10% rule, however, based on your fitness, ability, but cornerstone basically of all endurance sports.
Yeah, exactly. And typically done once a week. That's the other key thing to factor in here, because when you're training, you're building those stepping stones, and that's why it's just done once a week. And it's a cornerstone, as Patty just mentioned, of your distance running.
But it's considered, even though most of it's done at an easy pace, it's considered a hard workout because you're doing it at that longer thing. So you need a recovery day. You cannot do a hard workout after your long day. So it's either a rest day or a recovery run.
Yeah. So next one, we talk a little bit different types of runs is your tempo runs, which is going to be 80 to 90% of your max heart rate. So this is going to be, again, 15 to 20 minutes for newer runners and 30 to 45 if you're more experienced. So it depends, just, use your common sense where you guys fall into that category. A lot of you guys are going to fall into the latter, but.
Yeah. And you're not running at that. This is a faster pace. This is probably your 10K pace, just for things, or how fast you can run for about an hour, however that parses out depending on your athleticism. But you need to warm up for this. It's 5 to 10 minutes warming up, 5 to 10 minutes cooling down. And it's that in between, keeping that steady pace at, if you've done a 10K race, that's probably going to be the pace. If you're a 9-minute mile for that, then your tempo runs are probably going to be a 9-minute mile to keep dynamic warm up, couple miles, ideally depending on, 1 to 2 miles at an easy pace. You are gradually going into this. So that hard part of it, and it's not that effort to where you're gasping for air, but it's that you can get a couple words out. You're not going to be getting full sentences. You're not going to be able to have that conversational pace. It is higher than that, but it's not an all out pace to where it's very controlled. And it's comfortably hard, as they say, but you can maintain that for a certain amount. Now, the more advanced you go, these spread out. We're probably going to be in the, 35, 45 minutes. So, you're probably doing maybe 6-mile tempo runs or 7 or 8, including your warm up and cool down. More advanced, obviously, it's going to be longer than that, but that's basically when they talk about your lactic threshold is the amount of time that your body can mitigate, it's burning energy. It's burning that intensity. You need a lot of energy for this. The byproducts of that energy, as we know, you've probably heard of lactic acid. That creates, if you're doing at a slower pace, your body can make up for that and turn that back into energy. So you're not getting that buildup. Once that threshold starts to, you start to push that threshold when you're doing these, and you push that threshold, it gets to where you're building up too much byproduct for it to be able to mitigate that and turn it back into energy. So then it builds up. That is the acidic environment for our muscles. That not exactly what creates a fatigue, but you don't need to know that. But basically, that's the concept of under that acidic environment, your muscles don't contract as well. They don't move as well. It's not the environment that they want. So that creates that, you can go for so long, and then that fatigue that hits you, that, and then you either have to slow down or you have to stop. That threshold, the longer you can extend that threshold to where your body's able to make up and use that lactic acid and keep turning it back into energy, is you extending that amount of period that you can run that faster pace without fatiguing, without having to slow down. So that's what the tempo runs do. It builds that lactic threshold and allows you to run at a faster pace for a longer time.
Yeah, exactly. As Patty just mentioned, in another way is just it's a fast and controlled but comfortably hard run is what the tempo run is. So
exactly.
Interval runs, alternating periods of hard running with periods of rest or easy jogging, right? So you're just going to go real fast and then slow down.
Yeah, these are short bursts, depending on that. But this is another that, anaerobic energy system. There's 3 different energy systems. They're all working at different times. What activity you're doing determines how much of what energy system is being used. We know the anaerobic is short, produces a lot of byproduct that is hard. The aerobic, you can walk forever because the byproducts it's producing is water and carbon dioxide. Your body can mitigate that. It's fine. It's not going to build that up. When you are sprinting, when you're doing this, you can do those short bursts at first, but like I said, you're going to build up a lot of that. So these are the faster things that are working on that VO2 max or your anaerobic thresholds to allow you to have that speed. So when you get to that end of your race, that last part of your race, you're able to kick it in. Your body's used to using this energy system, recovering from this, doing these different things. Because that's going to be needed through your whole entire race. And like I said, kicking it at the end, you have to practice being able to do that. Working on these intervals allows you to give that practice, gives you that neuromuscular, memory of, hey, I can run fast. I can do this. My body knows how to make this happen. But you have to practice it like with anything. So build speed and endurance because we want to go faster, but we want to be able to go faster for longer
periods. Exactly.
None of us are just sprinters or, doing, 800-meter racing. That's not what we're pretty much all of you are distance.
Yeah, we are the
type.
weekend warrior runners, right?
And
That's
we're the distance runners.
Correct.
Because that's the much easier. We like the aerobic system is much easier
That's right.
to use for most of it, but we can't neglect this part of it.
Yeah, and again, it's just going to improve your body's ability to tolerate and remove all that lactic acid, which is so critical for us runners, because running for long periods of time is going to build all that stuff up, as Patty just mentioned. So,
but there's also you drop something or whatever, you try to catch something. This is the same type of work, so it doesn't just apply to running. It applies to being able to react quickly. As we get older, we lose that. If you keep working on this is going to help catch yourself when you fall.
Yeah.
Something's thrown at you, you have that reaction. This is all it all, believe it or not, all this stuff why it makes really great for running and that, but it will translate into your everyday activities too. So.
Which is the other reason we've talked about it at quite a bit, is that we're doing all this stuff so we can live, not only so we can keep running and stay injury resilient, but just in normal life, right? Like putting those groceries into the cupboard, getting them out of the car, moving stuff around. Your day-to-day life. This is going to help you do that without even thinking about it, and not have, like, probably some of your coworkers that something happened. They have a kink or something happened, so it's impacting their daily life.
Exactly. So we want to be strong. This definitely works. But you have short intervals, you have long intervals. We're going to talk about short. That's usually 400 meters or less, depending on if you're doing VO2 max or anaerobic. That's where it gets a little wonky when they start talking about it. You don't really need to know that unless you're like, none of us are competitively running. We have a competitive nature, but we just want to perform well at our races. So statistically, when they've studied this, the shorter, the shorter distances, especially as we get older, are the least amount of impact on us, because when we run faster, that is increasing our chance of injury and stuff like that. So we always have to watch how we're doing. We have to have the strength to do this, but we have to do these properly. So these are going to be they're going to be hard workouts, but they shouldn't be punishing workouts. These are not designed to like all out efforts. It's a challenging effort. It's going to improve your speed. It's going to improve your endurance and allow you, like I said, in those end part of the races, be able to kick it in. So you usually have 400 meters. You would recover for 200 meters at a certain pace. So, and
95% of your max heart rate is when you're doing, and again, these are short intervals, as the name.
You're doing these at a pretty fast pace. Yep. So that would be an example. Active recovery means jogging recovery. The more you can, that's working on more of your speed endurance. We kind of want the speed, but we want to have the endurance. So if you can do the active recovery, yes, that's harder, but when you're doing that shorter distance, you can usually do, it's 5K pace. For a lot of people, it'd be a 3K or their 1 mile, pace, if you know what that is. With that enough, usually half the amount of distance with your recovery time.
Yeah, exactly. So then your longer intervals are going to be 600 meters to 1600 meters with an active recovery rest.
Now, some of those are longer distances, some depending on your workout or what adaptations you want for that, doing the rest. If you're working for just speed, then you're going to need the rest, part of it. If you're working for the speed endurance, which I think most of us are, then you're going to do that active recovery for usually half the distance.
Yeah, exactly. And again, use common sense. Just slow down if you need, but don't change your rest time. Ideally,
the key, right? the key to doing it, and you can't start out just like with a race. If you start out too fast, if you start out for your first interval, if you're going out and you're like, oh dear God, I can't do this, and I've got 10 of these to do. Well, you're going too fast. A little bit conservative for the first couple, 3. So you should be building to where I can do this, and then maybe the last 1 or 2, I can actually do it a little faster. You don't want to go all out for the first 2 and then not be able to. And if that happens and you mess it up, because sometimes we do that, don't change the rest time. If you have if it's supposed to be a 200-meter rest when you're doing it, or a 400-meter rest, don't increase that time. Slow down your pace, but don't increase your rest time. You have to keep that the constant. And then once you do this a lot, then you'll realize, all right, this is more what my pace should be for these type of things, and that'll slowly improve. But err on the side of caution when you're first doing the first couple of repeats. Feel that you have control over these intervals, and then kick it in a little bit if you have any extra at the end.
Yeah, and again, this is going to be more because you're doing 90 to 95% of your max heart rate. Whoops. And then you can also, as an example, there's 6 times 800 meters with a 400-meter active recovery.
And these might be done at either your 5K pace or your 10K pace. They're going to be done at a little bit slower. If you're doing just speed, it would be a little bit faster with, the rest. But like I said, most of us are not. We don't want just speed. We want speed and endurance.
Yeah. The key thing is we're trying to combine all this stuff. We're building everything up, right? Mm-hmm. So then kind of recapping here, there's some other types of interval runs where there's hill runs. If you've got hills around you, even if you're in a rural area that's flat, there probably are bridges somewhere not far from you. Again, use,
or a treadmill.
Or a treadmill. Treadmills have that as well. And there's going to be gyms in your area. That I can guarantee you. There may not be hills, and it may not be safe to run up and over a bridge, so that you can just have to do the treadmill, and you can adjust that. As much as you might want to dread it, it does help. It really does help.
Absolutely. So these are intervals. So these are a little bit longer. These are not just hill sprints. These are 90 seconds, actually 30 to 90 seconds. You can up to 2 minutes depending on your pace, but this is still at a hard pace. So you're going to do that jogging or, walking down. A lot of people need to practice if they're on a hilly course. That's going to be for their race. You need to practice the downhill. A lot of people I need to work on those hills. You really need to work on going down those hills, because that's a different thing. That's affecting your knees more in that. So if you're not used to that, this is definitely something you want to do. But this is probably the easiest way for a beginner to add in. If speed work sounds crazy, if interval work sounds crazy, doing 400-meter repeats and 800-meter repeats sound like too much, hills are the safest. It's at a slower pace. It's not going to be, not that it's not challenging, but as far as the impact, because you're not running as fast, and it kind of forces you to run with better form.
And ideally, you want to try to get a 4 to 6% grade. Again, try to do 8 to 10 repeats. If you're not there yet, just build yourself up to it, right?
Do that.
It's
doing more than 10 repeats is not going to really give you the benefits. If you're doing the longer, especially the 90 seconds to 2 minutes or whatever, you really don't need to do more than that. But it also is strength training.
Yeah, it really is. It really does, because
it helps to strengthen. It builds your heart. That cardio, it's really good for your heart. But it forces you to have that forward lean, that forward lean from your feet, not bending over. It forces you to arms to be back. It really puts you in that position that you should be when you're running, kind of naturally. So it's a win-win all around, and it's the least impact. And like I said, it's great for beginners, but it's great for all of us to do.
Yeah, and again, it's when you do that, as much as you're going to dread it mentally, when you're done, you're like, well, that feels good, and I'm building strength. Remember, you're getting stronger at that point in time, all across your body, not only cardio, but your running economy in general. So then there are strides, which you can do for 20 to 30 seconds. You pick a spot out in front of you and just start running.
These were different type of speed work.
Yeah, different type of speed work. Yeah,
we didn't change the
headline on the top there. Yeah,
you got us. I know.
So
strides are something that everybody should do.
This is something I do.
Yes, it is one thing if you're not going to do any speed work. This is considered speed work. It only works, the benefits for that, if you do it consistently per week, and you can add it into any other things that you're doing. But it is on a bell curve. You're literally 5 seconds up, 15 to 20 seconds at that steady pace, the fast steady pace, and then you're decelerating. So, and then you're having a full rest in between. It's great to do after like one of your easy runs. I like to do it on Saturday after my easy run. And then I have it kind of shakes my legs out for doing my long run on Sunday. So it keeps that little bit of springiness, that little bit of that neuromuscular thing to let your body know that, hey, I run most of it easy, but I can kick in and I can run fast when I need to. So
yeah, exactly. So then my next favorite is the old fartleks, which are basically unconstructed speed work. You're going to mix your efforts into short and fast with easy and running.
Those are the easiest things to do because it can break up on your easy run. If you got one of those feelings like you have an easy run scheduled and you're like, you just feel like, oh man, I just want to run fast. We've had it. We've all had that. We're like, oh, the weather's perfect, all this stuff. But you're supposed to do an easy run. So it's supposed to be that. Add in these, you run for a little while, and then you're like, I'm going to run a little faster up to that tree, up to that post. You pick it, you pick the speeds, you can vary it, you can mix it up. And it's nice. And also on the other end of it, if you're slogging along and on one of your longer runs, you're just not feeling it, believe it or not, you add a few of these in, it mixes things up. It kind of gets you out of that funk. Running a little bit faster, it gives you a little bit of a pickup. It doesn't sound like it would, but try that. You can try that on both those instances. But it's just a fun way to add in some speed work that you don't have to think about. You kind of just make up as you go.
Yeah, exactly. And the nice thing about that is, like Patty just said, it does break up mentally wherever you're at. And that's the best part about it, because it'll almost give you a fresh start. That's the best part I like about that.
Yeah, it does. It gets you out of that funk. If we've all had them when we're running.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Talk about some race specific runs again, because you guys are training for races right now. You can do a fast finish long run, which really means you're going to run at a 5K. You're going to do that three times for 1 mile. No. Okay.
No, those are all different ones.
All right.
Okay. So race specific is a specific part of your training. You have your building block. Yeah, your building block. You're going to have your endurance part of it, and then your race specific. This is why peaking too soon and doing all that, you want to save these type of runs. These are like your testing runs for your marathon or for your half marathon, whatever your race is. But it is this needs to be part of, you can't just add this in willy-nilly. This has to be structured into, and it's usually 4 to 6 weeks out of your race to really hone in on that 5K that you're going to do, that half marathon you're going to do. These are workouts that are designed exactly for the type of race that you're doing, to give you that feeling that you're going to have for the race. This is where you test it. You don't test it along the way. Before that, this is a time where you can get that confidence and feel. These are hard workouts. You can't do a lot of them. These are just a few, and they are very specifically designed into a program. But it can really set you up for success on race days. So fast finish long runs are hard. If you're doing a 16-mile run, that means at mile, say 12 to, you're going to have 3 miles in there where you run at race pace. So you get to mile 12, you've already run 12 miles, you're already feeling a little fatigued. Now you're going to ask your body to run at race pace, a minute and a half faster probably than what you've been running for like 3 miles, and then slow down. This is a mental, challenging, hard run. You probably would only have 1 or 2 of these in a race specific training block, but it'll really give you the confidence, if you can make this happen, one of these workouts, that you're going to have that good race day.
Yeah, exactly. So then I was describing this incorrectly. I jumped ahead a little bit. So then you also have, as another race specific run.
This would be for a 5K. Yeah. You're running almost the distance. When it's shorter, you can run almost the distance because your body can recover because it's a shorter distance or whatever. So a lot of 5Kers, this is probably going to be in your thing. You're going to do three times 1 mile repeats. That's going to be your race. And you're going to do it at race pace. Some people, if you're more advanced, you're probably going to do it a little faster than race pace just to see how you're doing, because you're having that little bit of recovery. That's going to give you a good idea if you're going to be able to do that, whatever time that you have in mind for that race.
Yeah, and then for a 10K, you would do 3 times 2 mile repeats. So just a little bit longer.
Once again, you're doing almost, pretty much you're racing the distance, because these are shorter amounts,
shorter events, yeah,
that you can recover from, but it gives you, a clear picture. Obviously, you're not doing these every week. Obviously, this is the end part of your training and your race specific things. Remember, this all has to be, we can do all these things if they are structured right, if you've built up, you have enough of all the other components as part of it. You can't just throw these things in because you saw it somewhere and like, oh, that sounds like a good, workout. I want to test myself, but it has to be in the right time frame so your body can perform well and not get you injured.
Yeah, and that's the key thing here. And then for halves, I know a lot of you guys like to do halves. You'll do 3 times 3 mile repeats. So again, now we're cutting it down because it's a longer event, right? So you can't do that type of specific run for the entire thing. This is a
hard workout.
Yeah,
that very hard. Those 3 miles are at that race pace, and like I said, it's a good indicator, but don't underestimate how hard these are. So these are not something that, like I said, 1 or 2 are probably going to be mixed in with your training in that certain block.
Yeah, and then lastly, for a full, you're just gonna, because of the distance, you're just gonna do 2 6 mile repeats, and that is gonna, again, that's a lot harder than you realize, because if you're
and
doing
these
that
would
training,
be the full marathon would be at race pace. You don't, for a marathon, even for the half marathon, you're probably not going to want to do it faster than your race pace, because that would be just too much on you. Remember, you can do a little more the 10K and the 5K, just because the distance is shorter. So make sure that you are being smart. It's all about training smart.
Exactly. So we'll end up here today by ending as we do each week. So we're going to go back to the kitchen next week. A lot of this stuff, again, everything starts with your nutrition, right?
It really does.
So because you want to build that strength and that endurance, you want to keep running as long as possible and stay injury resilient, but it starts in the kitchen. So if you guys are struggling, we were willing to help you guys. As a free call here. Just go to runtips.us/call. We can kind of get you guys set up here in terms of just getting started. That's one of the things that we've noticed that we've talked to people, is that they struggle with just getting started. They need that momentum. It's all about momentum, right? Yep. So if you can get started
and not getting overwhelmed,
it's a lot of times you just need to make some minor changes. This is what we've done with our nutrition. We've made minor changes. It has been staggering. The change is life-changing for us, right? Yeah. It's worked for us. And so other people we've worked with, they've had the same thing. So if that's something you're looking for, we can offer that to you guys. Again, go to runtips.us/call, and we can do a quick call and see if we can at least get you guys started. So with that, we'll end it here for today.
Happy Saturday, everyone.
And get a long run in if you can, or keep running as best you can, weather permitting. And we'll see you guys next week. We're going to be back in the kitchen.
Okay.